All right. According to StreamYard, it says we've been live for 2 minutes and 46 seconds. That's ridiculous. All right, everyone, welcome to Masculine. Nothing is right today. It's just been like this weird ridiculousness. All right, welcome to Masculine Geek number 176, the Fireside Chats. And today we're joined by returning guest, Mac, goes by the handle on Twitter, Kenzie Tuff. And we're going to be talking about the current state of affairs, if you will, with comic and gaming conventions. Now, before we get started, I will say this: I haven't been to a convention, gaming or comic or otherwise. Well, that's not true, and I'll delve into that since 2010 when I was at PAX East in Boston. That was a shit show, and I can talk about that later. The latest thing that I did go to was a Pulp Fest in Bordentown, New Jersey, and that I will say that harkened back to the old school conventions of the 80s and 90s, and we can talk about that as we go forward. So, welcome, Mac, to Masculine Geek once again.
Thank you. Good to be here. It's gonna be a shit show of a talk, I'm sure.
this is going to be we're going to delve into the nerd black hole that is comic and gaming conventions. So, I know Robert is active in gaming conventions and such and LARPing, and so are you. And like I said, I haven't been to one aside from the Pulp Fest that I went to last year. I haven't been involved in a gaming convention in 12 years. So, and I doubt TJ is either.
I've been to two in the past year and a half, of course, with everything going on, unfortunately. But before that, I used to go to quite a few every year, but not so much lately because they can't tone down the crazy, which I'm sure we'll get into. So
yes. What is the biggest thing with what is the hugest change that you've noticed over the years when you first started to now?
Well, so everybody has context. I didn't start cosplaying and dressing up and going to conventions until 2016 was when I went to my first one. So a lot of people will tell you things were already going far downhill when I got involved, like way downhill. But something I noticed right away, which I wasn't expecting as someone new to the scene, was how intertwined. I'll say a lot of what I'm describing is coming from the anime convention perspective, because I know sometimes comics can be a little bit different of a deal, and sometimes they're combined and such. But especially at the anime conventions, that's what I can speak to. The LGBTQ plus whatever is tied at the hip, and it has been since I started, but that's really accelerated to the point where when I was going to cons right before everything that was going on a couple years ago, it was like a 1-for-1. Every anime panel there was a random panel on something related to that at an anime convention, which I thought was weird because I'm thinking, what does this have to do with this? I don't understand. So I'm sure we can get into that. I don't know much about the comic conventions, to be quite honest. I always went to either a combined con or just an anime con. So, but that's something I noticed right away. So,
yeah.
Okay.
I started going to conventions in the early mid 80s. So, but I was aware of conventions all through the 70s, so much so that I knew about the olden day conventions back in the 1940s and stuff when people would dress up as either pulp characters or as members of like the golden age superheroes from like the Justice Society of America and things like that. So, and going to conventions in the early 80s, whether it was a general sci-fi fantasy convention, even a relatively small one, there was the dynamic there was very, very different than it is at those similar kinds of conventions today, not least of which is the fact that they are a lot smaller because the audiences for those have basically died off and have not truly been replaced. The only conventions that I think have been growing have been gaming conventions and anime cons. And in the case of the anime cons, that's been pretty true for over a decade now. The difference has been from the very early American anime cons from the late 80s and to the official big ones in like California and Texas and places like that in the early 1990s, is that they went from multi-generational fans of Japanese animation and manga to being junior high and high school kids away from mommy and daddy having sex and trying to get drunk, and that's and exploring their various pansexual lifestyles. And it's almost like a fetish con anymore, which with not only a lack of
I've heard about that
crossover. Oh yeah. and not in a good way, or even a mature way, or an intellectual way.
It might as well be a pride parade.
Yeah. And it's very, very superficial. And even the knowledge of the shows and appreciation for the shows isn't there. In the earlier days of anime fandom, I know there was a certain kind of code of conduct or honor system amongst the fans as far as how things were done. And because the passion for the hobby was so intense, despite the difficulties in being a fan at that point in time, just on getting a hold of any Japanese comic books or new anime shows, supporting the artists that you liked, supporting the material you liked was a big deal. Whereas now it's like, I'm entitled to free anime. I'm entitled to have it dubbed how I want it. I am entitled to free scans. I'm just a poor high school student. I don't have any money, even though, I live with mommy and daddy and have absolutely no expenses and absolutely no excuse not to have a job. So, it's that in that way, it's very, very different. And then of course, there's a lot of that in gaming conventions as well. Whether we're talking tabletop RPG gaming conventions or the video game conventions, like PAX and some of the others. And, and then the small local science fiction conventions, they're a whole other set of, a whole other different breed.
Well,
that's, if you look at Starbase Indie, which is a small local science fiction convention that takes place around Thanksgiving, you will notice for several years now, a part of their banner logo is the rainbow. That's what it's about.
Well, that pulp convention I went to back this past December was a breath of fresh air because it was all just fat dudes that smelled bad. Yeah, it was basically harkened back to the mid to late 80s. I'm like, my people. There was not a blue-haired fucker to be found. There was no ridiculousness. It was just they were there for the pulp magazines, the posters, the paraphernalia, and the books, and they were serious. They were serious collectors, and it was just great to be among them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna speak to like the fetish bullshit. One of the most disturbing aspects it almost made me just stop going even before everything that was going on was mentioned, just how young people were. And I mean, I'm getting up there, I guess. I'm 28 now for a woman, but
oh god,
I'm basically ancient. But I mean, like 11, 12-year-olds would be running around. And actually, I have a couple friends who are in like idol groups, which is like animes where like the girls sing and dance. And so they'll perform and stuff. And a lot of those are really young because that's just something like a lot of younger girls are into, like preteen to like teenagers, not 18 yet, just really young, just having fun. They just want to dance and wear their costumes. And their parents are just nowhere to be found. And one of the most common thoughts in my head when I'm walking around an anime convention is, where is your mother? Where are your people's parents? I cannot imagine dropping my child off to one of these things. I don't know if they just don't know or they just really don't care. Because I think I think if parents actually when my mom found out I was cosplaying, she said, "What is a cosplay? Is that some weird sexual thing? What do you like?" My mom was worried. And when I got into it, I was like 19, 20. But my mom was still like, "Wait a minute, this is very weird. What are these wigs? What is this?" But these people are dropping off their preteen daughters and there are adult people there too. but they're like, I would say they're like mid to like maybe early 30s. But then you have those people with all these little kids, and I like the family thing is fine. I do see families with like their kids there, but not a lot. Most of the time it's unattended preteen to teenagers, like boys and girls just running around, and that's where you get the people that kind of scream down the hallway and they act like kids because they are kids, whatever. But and then I see them, and then I see the furries walking down the hallway, and my brain is on alert. I'm like, this is not, what are we doing? This is so not appropriate for kids.
What's best is the girl in the bondage outfit walking the furry down the hall in the leash.
That's fine. Yep, that's totally appropriate for your 13-year-old son or daughter to see that. Yeah. It's so, and they do have 18 plus panels, but so much of it is adult, not just at night. If it was just like, okay, everyone, past 7 o'clock, wear your fetish gear, whatever. This is when the adult stuff is happening. That would be, I would still be like, you people are freaks, but that would be different. But it's so blended together, and it's all like kink, and like also like, how is anime in that even related to that at all? Like, I don't understand.
A kink goth anime
it's weird
amalgam, right?
It's like anime conventions, and I feel like a lot of these conventions have just become somewhere for weirdos of all stripes to hang out, which to some extent is fine. But if you're gonna make it a family event, and actually I have seen discussions online saying, what if we made family cons and then just adult cons? Which it's silly we would have to do that, but I would prefer that over, I would prefer something be labeled so I know what I'm getting into.
Right.
Instead of having all these drunk people running around a hotel connected to a convention center in front of a bunch of children, like doing God knows what, and approaching them. And I've even had people that I know online bring their sisters and be like, yeah, there was this guy taping my sister's dance idol group, and we asked him to stop and he wouldn't. I go, well, yeah, where was the parent to step up and puff your chest out to that dude and say, get the hell away from these kids? They weren't there because no one's monitoring that stuff. So that part of it is really disturbing to me. That's been one of the worst things I've experienced for sure.
I would love to see an adult anime con, and when I say adult, I don't mean pornographic. I mean just
age.
A certain age.
Where
it's like
you go there, you watch shows, you talk about shows, you collect goods from the shows. You can hang out in the bar and have a bourbon and a cigar and talk about, oh gosh, you remember the first time you saw Star Blazers, whatever.
Yeah, and like that's the thing. I cosplay, there are some shows that I cosplay from just from the 90s. The people walk up to me, and they're popular shows, but they're just so young, they just don't know, which is fine. But they'll be like, what the hell are you cosplaying from? And then I've noticed it is the older people that come up to me and go, whoa, I haven't seen this character in this long. This is so awesome. But you're not going to get that because it's just such a weird, just blob of different people that they're not fans of specific things and things like that. They're just kind of there doing what they want.
The needs to be in effect. This is a little off topic, but sort of. There was a movie house in a few towns over from me in Voorhees. It was a 14 movie space arc, but it was all art house movies, and they would occasionally show a commercial, one or two. But the rules were as follows: no one under 5 was admitted. And anyone under the age of 17 had to be accompanied by an adult. Beautiful.
Right. I mean, honestly, even just saying, hey, if you're under 18, you need to be accompanied by adult. That would be fine. It just shocks me that that has never entered, even if there wasn't fetish stuff at cons. I think that should be a thing, because you don't know. A lot of these cons, anybody can pay to go to. They're not screening people for being legitimate predators or anything.
No,
I mean, oh my God, that's like a buffet for these freaks, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, they're not screening for that, but they are screening for your COVID vaccination is up to date.
They want your medical info.
Yeah, exactly. They want your medical info and your money.
What's also interesting is they would allow based on what you said, and from what I'm assuming, they allow their kids to roam around these conventions where there's a lot of weird stuff going on. Would they do the same thing for them going to the playground that's a half mile away from their house?
Right.
But they let them just go like, hey, go hang out at the playground.
By yourself. No, probably not.
No, they wouldn't. This is what I find. I like I was saying before we started recording, I've just concluded that most people are just genuinely stupid, and they can't put two and two together, but also just dysfunctional. So you're afraid your daughter's gonna get kidnapped at the local playground, but you take them to a convention where there's fetish stuff going on, and you don't think that they need some sort of supervision. I don't know what to say other than they're idiots, and in my authoritarian dictatorship, they would not be allowed to have children, but we're not there yet.
Well, they probably don't know anything beyond the fact that, well, they're just a bunch of Pokemon fans. What could happen? They're just a bunch of Naruto fans. What could happen?
My question too is the smaller conventions, this doesn't happen as much compared to the large mega, like 80, 120,000 convention weekend long bullshit things.
I have the cons that I have went to, especially over the past year and a half, because they're the ones less likely to be freaks about COVID, because they just started and it's still really small, which is great. I have been to a few really big conventions. I would love for the scene to just reemerge. Everything's more local. That's fine. I did notice, at least in the Midwest here, a lot of the smaller ones, you will see kids unattended, but a lot of the times parents are there because it's just
hovering around.
It's just at the local convention center. They're like, "Oh, what's this? Sure, I'll go with you. We can go for a couple hours."
It's like a family thing at that point, right?
Yeah, it is more. The smaller ones, at least from what I've seen in the Midwest, are a little bit more family focused, depending on what it is. I've also noticed I've been to some. I just went to my first, because I'm into like cryptids and stuff like that, like Bigfoot and stuff. I just went to my first conference like that locally, brand new, not that many people there, probably like under 2,000 people there. That was much more adults, which makes sense a lot of times, unless you're like me and you were a weirdo, you weren't into that as a kid. But that was my first experience being around mostly adults at a convention, and it was really nice. I mean, I wasn't dressed up, because what am I going to dress up as?
Your X-File character?
Probably, yeah. Scully would probably fit.
Scully would have been perfect there. You would have been Belle of the Ball at a cryptid convention dressed as Scully.
That would have worked out good. Yeah.
But that was a nice experience, and that obviously there was like a couple kids that you could tell were just like, "Mom, why are we here? What is this weird stuff? Why are they talking about aliens?" But yeah, that was nice. It seems like the local ones are wow, shocking. Less decentralized stuff is less degenerate. That's crazy. Who would have thought that's how that works? But
right.
Well, in my experience, that stuff is still at those smaller local Midwest cons, but they're private. They're in someone's room. They're by invitation only.
Yeah.
I mean,
we
all through the 80s, there were still, gore parties at sci-fi fantasy conventions, but you had to be invited. You had to know someone to get asked into that kind of room.
VIP
and
stuff.
But it wasn't for public consumption. It was adults having adult conversations and sometimes behaving in very adult manner, but behind closed door, even if it was in front of other adults. But it wasn't out in the hallway. There was none of the squeeing, glomping crap that makes me sound like an old man yelling at the kids to get off my friggin' lawn before I unleash my Snorlax on them.
It's true though.
But it is. It's like you guys don't fandom right.
Bro, do you even fandom? Right?
Yeah, it's about the thing, not you getting your dopamine hits from people seeing you or whatever. And
I've also noticed, I don't know if this is part of it. I don't know if it's just social media, but I've also noticed a lot of it is they're not necessarily there for the specific voice actor or something. Like when I look at these sci-fi conventions and I look at the comments, especially small local ones, all the comments are like, wow, I can't wait to see this specific comic book person or this specific author. When you go to an anime convention, everyone's just kind of there to circle jerk over their costumes. And like, I wear costumes, but I also walk around the vendor hall and talk to the artists. And even if I'm not going to buy something from them, I go, hey, this is really cool. How did you make this? You don't see the kids doing that. The kids are running up and down the hallways, screaming, making anime noises, and acting like they're in Dragon Ball Z. Like that's what the kids are doing. They're not buying stuff from the artists, which is really
and some of those kids are your age, Kidsy. I mean,
kids.
Yeah.
By kids, I mean people in their mid-20s that are being the most stereotypical anime fan you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is unfortunate, but and that's why I think, I know we kind of touched on the vendor thing earlier, like they're not actually buying and supporting things.
Mhm.
I think that played a large part in people's mentality about, well, it's fine if we shut down for 2 years and there's no conventions. Who is that really going to affect? It's like
Mhm.
every author that you want to support and every
All the artists
local
and creators,
artist.
yeah.
Mhm.
A lot
Yep.
of we've had a couple of anime, like physical anime stores that sell figures and things like that open up locally. And that's how they get their start. And one of them, there's two that opened up in the past couple of years, and one of them has already shut down because they were depending on those cons to travel around to get money
Mhm.
from fans, and they couldn't do that. Well, of course, these people don't understand that because they weren't supporting it anyway. So they're like, oh, it's fine. They'll live. I go, do you know how small business works? No, they're actually not going to be fine at all. This is terrible for them. And you're not even giving anyone a little leeway to at least try to start to make money and things like that. So
Well,
that
I
was
think
really
if anything, the last 2 years has shown that most Americans know absolutely nothing about economics. And
No.
if you're talking kids, high school, college age,
Yeah.
they know absolutely nothing about economics. And if they do think they know something about economics, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
they-
I have a buddy who works in a corporate setting that I couldn't stand, but he works with younger people. I can't believe I'm saying that because I just turned 35.
You old bastard.
I know I'm an old man.
You're one of the youngest old men I know, TJ. So
Right? You're like 80-year-old man and a
You're a
35-year-old
You know
woman.
what's
moment I
funny? You
met
know what's
you.
funny about that? I will be brief on this. I feel like I'm Merlin from the Once and Future King, where I'm getting younger as I get older.
You're
They used to act
Benjamin
a lot
Buttoning
more-
it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm riding the motorcycle and doing all crazy stuff. But
Working at a graveyard.
working with my fellow people.
Yes.
Okay, now I completely lost it. What was I talking about just now?
I don't
About
fucking know.
being an
I
old
don't
man.
listen to you, TJ.
Oh, he
You were
works
talking
with
about your
all
friend in
these
the corporate setting.
Yeah, he works with all these young kids, and they literally think that food just appears out of nowhere at a Safeway.
Mhm.
They just think that he was explaining to them the concept of a supply chain, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that food came from farms." I'm like,
What the fuck? Good
these
Lord.
retards get to vote. So yeah, you apply it to other stuff like that. But here's the interesting thing I have about the convention stuff. It's almost like the conventions, they were created for a specific purpose, and over time people have taken them over who see them for other purposes. It's kind of like a parasite or something where like somebody who comes into a company and it's no longer about making money, it's about getting everyone in the company to support SJW bullshit or something like that. It seems like it's not about celebrating some sort of or cosplaying or whatever. It's about promoting an ideology and getting everyone and driving anyone who doesn't adhere to that out of the space.
Well, and honestly, unfortunately, I mean, I have business cards I carry around if I go to a convention because sometimes people will ask you, hey, do you have a page or something I can follow you on? But to me, there's a big difference between that and going and just kind of like strutting up and down the hallway. And that's all you're there to do. And I have seen people, they will go, they'll pay the money, they'll get a photo shoot done. They won't buy anything and they'll just leave because they say, oh, well, my ego has been sated for this month. So that's it. I'm done. I'm not going to try to make any friends. I try to find at least 4 or 5 people every convention I go to whose costume I like to be like, hey, can I get a picture with you? Even if I'm not going to post the picture on social media, because interacting with people who like the shows that you are, to me, I thought, apparently I am wrong, was the point of going. Even if someone comes up to me and they have no idea what character I am, just the fact they came up and asked, and I could say, oh, it's a really good show, you should watch it, this is where you can watch it. People aren't doing that. They're just going to, like I said, just for their own ego. They're not supporting people. They're not supporting the fandom. I went to a con a couple months back now. I got to meet a Power Ranger, which was super excited for me. Totally dated myself. He was looking at me like, how old are you? I go, oh man, listen, I was watching Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, okay? Because there was a lot of kids there who didn't know who the hell he was. They know Power Rangers, but they don't know him specifically. And I got to get a picture with him, and that was awesome. People aren't doing that.
Well, a lot
Um,
of the wow factor behind going to a convention or a gaming convention, eh, it's you can see it online. We've been slowly conditioned to see these things.
Mhm.
It's not a novelty anymore. For me, when I was going to small gaming conventions, it was like, oh, you break out we had no GPS. You break out a fucking map. Like, okay, well, it's in
yeah,
this, it's this
it's
state
a
over.
road trip.
It's a road trip. It's a fantastic thing. We have to call the hotel and make arrangements. You do all these things, and then you drive there. There was no, unless you had a camcorder, which at one point I did, but there was no phone on our hip to take a photo of it and post shit on Insta. There was no Instagram. There was none of that.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
was just you and this unique novel experience that you had, and there was something special about that and magical. Now that's completely gone because you can just open your phone
Yeah.
and look. I'm going to go check out a convention that happened last year or whatever. There's
That was
no magic.
that was another weird thing over the past couple years was so many conventions tried to do we'll just have an online con
Mhm.
thing and just jump into the Discord and talk to the guest. I
No,
don't want
that's
to
crap.
jump into a Discord and talk to the voice actor. That's no different than like watching someone like what we're
Yeah.
doing right here. This is a
Exactly.
completely different experience than if someone would get to come to a panel that we were doing and meet us in person and interact
Correct.
and not just
Exactly.
chat and like you said, I think the social media thing probably has a lot to do with it because you're
Yeah.
right. Now I can, like I said, I don't always share the pictures I take of costumes. I just, I want to show them to other people. Well,
Mhm.
if you can do that instead of just looking at friends and saying, wow, I wonder what like special, like practical effects that guy used to get that effect. Like
Mhm.
I saw a guy on like stilts at this last convention I was at, which was extremely creepy to me. I don't even know what character he was. I was looking at him like, how did you train yourself to do that? I didn't take a picture or anything, but my husband and I talked about it all the way home. Like, man, that guy looked really cool. I have no idea what the hell he was, but
Exactly.
it was cool to see. You don't
Mhm.
really get that because, like you said, you can just go scroll through the Facebook album or I guess whatever kids Instagram, I guess, not a Facebook album, but you get what I'm saying. Like you can
Yeah.
just look at it. What's the point of going and giving even the cons your money? And to be honest, they're promoting all this stuff. I don't even know if I want to give them my money at this point anyway, but it's
Mhm.
still unfortunate that it's been so it's not as special anymore for sure. Even
Exactly.
from
I'm
like
amazed.
6 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at the number of people who are completely comfortable basically being physically isolated from other human beings, whereas I've gone in the complete opposite direction where I want everything to be in person as much as possible and emphasizing like meaningful local relationships and that kind of thing. Whereas some other people are very comfortable with the idea of basically not interacting. Very antisocial behavior is what I kind
Well,
of sense.
it also it speaks to people's. There's a lot of this, and I've run into a lot of people with this generalized anxiety bullshit. Two things are going to happen with generalized anxiety and plans to meet someone out in the real world. You're either going to steel yourself and go do what you fucking have to do, or you're going to become more of a hermit. The problem is the internet has enabled people to be more of the hermit. That's just the way it is. So it's like this. You're circling the drain of this generalized anxiety bullshit, and no one wants to actually get off their ass and go outside and meet people because it raises their anxiety level. They don't want to deal with it, and it's much easier to do this. No, we're doing this because it's contextual, but going out to a convention or taking that road trip or interacting with friends in another state and meeting up to play a game or to do other outside activities like that. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, we have a local group. There's a local Facebook group in my area, and until of course the past 2 or 3 years, they were actually doing probably like every 3 or 4 months, they would have a cosplay meetup
Mhm.
where there's no con. We all just dress up in our costumes. We meet downtown and we just go somewhere. We went to like a gaming arcade type of thing, a nerdy game arcade type of thing. That kind of stuff is fun because you're not necessarily, it almost is how conventions should feel, but they don't anymore. Well, of course, they stopped doing that because of everything that's going on. And well, we can't make sure everyone's vaccinated. So we can't meet up because, you know, then I would want to see your identification, ma'am, so that you can talk to me. And now, even though they are doing them, they make you wear masks, of course. I'm like, well, that ruins my costume. So thank you. Not doing that.
Well, you kind of touched on this earlier with the costumes and the stuff at the conventions. The whole, I remember costuming when it was done purely for the love of the show or the character or whatever. Yes, there were people who did the costumes to compete in the costume contest, in the masquerade or what have you, depending on what nomenclature they used and how far back we're going to go. But for the most part, the costume you wore was a part of how you identified.
Stop fucking with your hair, James.
With
I will not.
With what tribe
I'm gonna set fire to it when I come out there in
belong
Texas.
to at a convention, as far as, you know, whether you were one of the media fans or one of the literary fans, because back in the day, being a literary fan was still very prominent. And there was a time when there was a bit of a schism between the two, because the literary fans naturally thought, well, we were here first and we read and are literate and therefore are superior to you people that just watch Lost in Space and Star Trek. but it was a part of how you told what tribe you were a part of. And there were certain aspects that almost had a, not mystical, but I mean a ritualistic aspect to it, as far as the ceremonies and the context there, which, you know, for society, especially in America, where we had different things that we come, you know, either from our families or what we've grown up with, as well as whatever traditions we're still allowed to appreciate here in this country. You know, that was a part of those things that were missing when you live, you know, when you grew up in a village or on your parents' farm and you lived with 3 or 4 generations of your family and those kind of things. That was in the modern age of the 20th century, it filled that niche in a really kind of nice way. And especially with people who were, you know, we always hear on the internet, even though this is an entire month to celebrate people that are supposedly marginalized, you know, at one point in time, being someone who liked Star Trek or enjoyed reading Robert Heinlein books or, you know, Robert Howard or anything like that, you were kind of looked upon somewhat.
Well, that's why
by the larger society.
That's why the pulp conventions are very much reminiscent and harken back to that, which I like.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny. It's funny to know people who are older who lived through that. So my father-in-law is in his 60s, and we went on vacation this past February, and we got to talking about reading because they know I like to read. And I was talking about Heinlein, and my father-in-law just stops and he looks down the table and he goes, I have so many books to give you. What do you mean?
Nice.
And he just started, I really need to get through them. He gave me just 2 whole boxes of like Heinlein and just all like the classic sci-fi novels that I don't have, and was like, take these, let me know when you're done, I have more. And it was a cool bonding experience for us, because I just never, my husband and I have been together for a decade, I just never mentioned it. He knew I liked to read, he didn't know what. And that is the kind of experience people were getting at these conventions. You were meeting people that you could geek out over these things. And one of the weirdest experiences for me, especially in the cosplay community, and this is across the board with comics and everything, is my personal philosophy has always been, if you see me cosplaying a character like Scully, for example, from the X-Files, it's because I'm obsessed with that show and I want to become that character, or like I want to bring that character to life for people. And then they see me and they come up to me and they go, oh my gosh, I love the show too. You know, some people are just, it's become really pervasive that you're like vaguely aware of a show, but it's especially since cosplay has been so commercialized, and it's how a lot of people make money now online and have OnlyFans and all that bullshit.
How a lot of women make money.
We should
There
clarify.
are very
Mhm.
few of us dudes that make money.
We
on
should
it.
clarify.
Unless
Dudes
we're
aren't
po-
making money.
Yeah, unless we're posing for game art or something like that.
There's like 2 super muscular famous male cosplayers that make
Yeah.
money doing it. That's it. And they have like one character they're known for, and they go to every convention as him. Because they look similar enough to him. Yeah. Especially among women. They'll just cosplay anything that's popular. They'll just see a popular character. And it's so weird. It's such a weird experience to put out a costume and share it on social media and have people go, "Oh, did you watch the show?"
Mhm.
Yes. What
Why do you think
Yeah.
we
what
dress
kind of
this
a
way?
question is that? What? But
Because
it's a
they would
legitimate
probably
question.
wear a costume wherein they did not watch the actual show.
Yeah, and I mean,
That's just
you'll see people complain and be like, "Well, that's gatekeeping." I'm like, "Well, hell yeah, it is. What the hell are you doing wearing this if you don't even like the thing?"
Oh yeah,
That's
right.
stupid, and it's annoying for people that do actually like the fandoms. Because if I'm wearing something and someone comes up to me and tries to have a conversation with me, or they'll come up to me and be like, "Oh, did you watch the show?" It's almost insulting to me. I'm like, "What do you think I did all this and got ready for 3 hours and didn't?" But some people do it, and they do it just to get photos taken and for clout and things like that.
Well,
And
yeah,
just for the attention.
exactly.
I really enjoy how the universal response to this question, whether the answer is yes or no, is disdain. Either it's you idiot. Of course I didn't watch it. I'm doing this because I have D cups. Or 2, of course I did. It's only because I watched the show that I did this. And in either case, it's just like this.
It's either a "how dare you ask me" or a "how dare you ask me." It's the same question.
Exactly, because it's just, and I think they're right to do that because it's just like a standard, like non-conversation starter.
Yeah.
It's like, what have you been up to? But for a specific niche.
It's like asking the weather.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it wasn't that long ago to me at least, and it's probably close to a decade or so. But there was a whole thing even on the internet at that time about
Did you
fake
put eyeshadow
fangirls.
between your tits because you watched the show?
Nah, they just like the eyeshadow between the tits because they want you to watch their show.
But there was a whole thing about fake fangirls, which caused a lot of female fans to get into quite a tizzy about. But the thing is, I've met them. They're girls there that are dressed in a costume that either a guy made to sell the costume, or they're there getting pictures taken for either the dopamine hit and of course now, to get you to follow them on Instagram and join their OnlyFans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And which that's all fine and good, but if you're not a fan of Star Trek, you just like dressing as a sexy science officer, then I have every right, and so does anyone else, to say, well, you're not a fan of the show. You are a fake fan. You were just you heard that there's this game called Final Fantasy and there's this character called Tifa that's popular and she's kind of cute and kind of sexy, and it would be real easy to make the costume even more sexy, which is always great when they're taking adolescent girls from anime and making them sex pots. And it's like, that's one thing. If you're dressing up as Betty Page, that's appropriate to be a sex pot, but not some 12-year-old magical girl in the schoolgirl uniform. That's what if you want to dress in the schoolgirl outfit and do something with your boyfriend, that's absolutely fine and dandy. I applaud that. I approve of that 100%. And if I'm your boyfriend, double thumbs up. But it's different when you're doing that for public consumption to market something that isn't sexual, to market it as sexuality. It's just kind of funny to do it and to be sensitive if someone wants to critique you about it, because you do you, but at least have enough fortitude to take the criticisms if they're warranted, and even if they're not.
Right. I mean,
it's very upsetting to get a boner in public. Like if the teacher calls you to the front of the class and you've shook your head no, so she now knows what it means, and she calls you up anyway. You're permitted some back talk. I just think that's fair.
No,
I
you're
just
not.
I just think
obviously.
that's fair.
Obviously, it's your fault as a filthy white male.
Yeah,
And you
how
should just
dare
blame
you get a
people for
boner?
I'm only half white. The other half is
Okay.
Irish.
It doesn't count. It's fine.
Yeah, you're really white. You're
It's
like
enough.
half white and really white.
It is now
Bottom of
one
the-
drop
bottom of the
rule the
barrel.
other way.
That's
Yeah, it's really weird. I will have people constantly say, "Hey, have you done this character from this series?" Or I've had multiple requests for me to cosplay Star Trek characters, and my response is, "I haven't watched all of Star Trek yet. I'll get back to you." And people look at me like I have 6 heads,
Yeah,
and I'm like,
you
"Why
need some proof of
would
purchase.
I don't." I'm like the reverse. My biggest fear is like someone's gonna walk up to me and ask me a question, and I'm not gonna know. That would be so humiliating for me. But I realize most people just don't care because they'll just tell you you're a bigot, and how dare you call them a fake fan, even though they clearly are, and it just doesn't matter.
That's what I find interesting.
Thank you,
is
Atham.
You use the word fake
Super sticker.
with these people on what fake news, fake American, fake fan, all that stuff. They go crazy because it hits something inside of them, which I think is the lack of authenticity.
They know what they're doing.
Right. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So you say, "Oh, you're just a fake fan." Like they hate
Poser.
charlatans. Yeah, exactly. They hate being called out for what they are, and fake has that punch that other words don't have. So you're like, you're a fake fan, you're a fake cosplay, whatever persons that cosplay, something like that. Yeah, I think it's interesting.
Yeah, they really don't like it. I do this with video games because I do stream on Twitch, but I would never classify myself as a gamer ever. And anyone who's watched me attempt a game on stream knows that would be a hilarious classification for me. But there are legitimately some people who are as trash at video games as I am, who would call themselves a gamer just because they're playing games.
Yeah,
and
they're
a gamer girl. And
Yeah.
my followers jokingly call me a gamer girl because they know it makes me mad because I'm not, and I don't label myself that. But they do it because it's hilarious. There are legitimately people who, if you call them a fake this because they're bad at it or they don't know what they're talking about, they legitimately get extremely angry and try to cancel you over it, even though just looking at the evidence, it's very obvious that it's true.
juvenile.
Well, especially when their game screen that you're watching is the
They're
size
half
of
the screen.
one of our screens here, but they are half the screen sitting
A
there in their
specific
bra
half
and
of them
panties
is half the screen.
playing
A
the
lower
game
half.
badly. Yeah. And it's just, here's their thigh shots while they're playing Final Fantasy X. And it's like, guys, if you're wanting to see thighs, there are better ways of doing that.
The Google is free.
No,
Yeah.
that's not. Listen, that's not the fantasy. The fantasy is I can break you down and into getting worse and worse and worse until you just go all the way.
Yeah.
That's
which is possible most of the time with these people. I didn't know there was
Exactly.
I didn't know about the hot tub streams until one was requested, and I went
Hot tub stream. Do I even want to
yeah.
know?
So basically,
want-
on Twitch, they're not actual hot tubs. They just fill a kiddie pool with water in their living room and sit in it in a bikini, and they're hot tub streaming, and they just talk to people.
Christ.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing until I was
That's the
it
dumbest
was
shit.
requested, and I'm like, I'm wearing a sweatshirt. Does it look like it would
Hot tub.
do?
Hot tub sweatshirt.
Did
guess.
you tell him I'll talk to my husband and get right on that?
Yeah, I'll get right on that.
You have your husband in the hot. You have your husband in the bikini.
Oh, he can sit in the hot tub
Hot
He
with
can
tub
hit
with
in the
you.
hot tub. There you go.
He could build one of his Gundam kits
in the
Yeah.
hot tub.
in the hot
Yeah.
tub.
Yes.
Exactly.
That way
See
you
how
can
well
use
they
the
like
wall
that shit.
to get the
To
stickers.
thin your paints.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
We went to
There's
the
so
same
many,
place.
There's so many people that have asked me because the Gundams are on the shelf behind me. Are those yours? And it would be so easy for me to be like, yeah, I built them all myself. I hand paint them, but I don't know what the hell those are. People are asking me which one is which. I'm like, I don't know. I've seen some of the Gundam animes, but I don't know what XR, whatever the hell those are. In the guitars and stuff, I'm like, none of this is mine. And then I'm like, you're gonna have to ask him. So now it's a weekly update. Which Gundam is he working on? But there are plenty of girls that would just be like, yeah, I built all those myself. I'm a model kit maker. That's what I do. It's like, I'm sure that works and you get lots of money for it, but no thanks. I have too much of a moral compass. That's the issue.
Yeah. No offense, Mac. You're cool and all, but I think your husband's even cooler.
He is cooler.
Put
He
that
is
out
cooler. It's to the point where I'll be streaming and my followers will be like, "So what's he up to this week?" I'm like, "Thanks, guys.
That's
That makes me
pretty-
feel
has
really great."
anyone online ever seen him?
No, he
He's-
doesn't. I think
he's in
they've
these
seen
hidden
him maybe
shadows.
walk by, and they've seen my dogs, but they haven't seen him.
They've seen like his legs walk by.
Though he is
Right.
mildly annoyed because he gets called Mr. Puff.
Oh,
yeah.
And he's like, "That's offensive." And then it's more
That's pretty
offensive to
offensive.
me because that makes me Mrs. Puff, like from SpongeBob, the giant blowfish. So that makes me feel great. I'm like, man, I should just give myself a like Smith or something so I can stop
Ready
being
for the
referred to
trad wife art.
as yeah.
Exactly.
I'm very trad. I was attacked for that this week for my traditional spandex bodysuit values.
Traditional spandex.
Hey, was it spandex traditionalism or something like that?
Someone did point out that yes, am I wearing a skin tight bodysuit that fully covers everything from the neck except the neck up? Yes, but that's actually incredibly modest these days.
yeah, it is.
So
Can
maybe it does
completely vouch
count.
for
I don't
that.
know.
Well, half the
Yeah.
women in my region are wearing spandex, the yoga pants.
That shouldn't be wearing spandex.
Yeah.
or yoga pants. They're basically wearing yoga pants everywhere. I'm like, this is just. I just want to either. When I become dictator, I will ban them. Over people, if you're over a certain. But first of all, if you're not in the gym, put on a dress. It's
You have
not
to be a
difficult.
certain. You have
Even
to be
if
a
you
certain
are in
body
the
weight.
gym, some of the stuff these people are wearing that I've seen people, our gym is really close to a college. So we'd have a lot of college girls come in there and I'm like, I can see your thong through
Mhm.
your yoga pants.
Mhm.
And then they get mad when people look at them. I'm like, I'm looking at you and I'm straight as hell. Like,
Yeah.
you're just got it all hanging out there. And
Yeah.
like, you look nice at least. At least most of them are fit, but then they get mad. That's the same as the cosplayers that do like bikini cosplays. And they're like, why are you ogling me? I'm like, because you have
'Cause
two
you're in a
really
fucking
big
bikini.
ogles
Yeah.
sitting there. Like,
Well,
I don't.
your boobs are in my face. I can't help but
Yeah,
notice.
I'm
that.
Exactly.
sorry.
Yeah,
That's
just
why-
huge gazongas.
Yeah.
This is like me buying my motorcycle, my Honda Rebel, and then saying, "Why are you looking at my motorcycle?" Well,
Stop
yes,
I bought it so you
objectifying me
would
while
look
I'm
at it.
riding
Yeah.
my motorcycle.
Or doing
I bought it so
any-
you
or-
would objectify me. That was
Yeah.
the entire
Or-
point of this. I got
or-
the extra shoulder pads on the built jacket so you
Mm.
would look at me.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
yeah,
It's
or
like,
doing
I ride my
or
motor-
doing anything hobby related or work related,
Right.
and someone you getting upset because someone was admiring
Everything
you.
is for more attention.
Exactly.
all of it.
Exactly.
My favorite line from people is, "You're just online for attention." I'm like, well,
Well, yeah.
no shit.
Duh.
Yes.
What
I'm
made-
here.
That's
Yeah.
why you're engaging with me right now. is
Yeah.
for the
Right. That's
attention.
why you're
Mr.
responding.
Anonymous.
Right.
Yeah.
Insert water boy noise.
I just thought this was our week to get together and talk to each other, and for some reason Vince keeps putting this crap on the internet, and people watch us have our conversations and,
Exactly.
and
It's all
play
for
D&D
attention.
and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you people watching? They were just hanging
Right.
out talking.
It's
This is
yeah,
supposed to be private. Jeez.
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting how for some people every interaction it's a zero sum game where somebody's losing out, and also it's either manipulative or exploitational. I kind of encountered that a little bit here, where if you're really friendly, people get very suspicious.
Mhm.
Or if you're just somewhat friendly, where I was telling Vince, and Vince can verify, when we were in New Jersey, people are very friendly there for them, at least where we were at. I'm
And
not used to that.
Gettysburg too.
Yeah, and I'm not used to that kind of friendliness for the most part here in the Pacific Northwest. People are generally thinking, okay, how is this person going to manipulate me? What do they want? How do I like? It's all just this weird sort of psychosis that's going on, and so
You need to move to America, TJ, where that's where the rest of us live. That's
The heartland.
yeah,
That's
it's
normal.
the stuff I see people complaining about on Twitter. It's like, yeah, that's not how
You're like we're
We
due back
are.
on planet Earth. We're due
Yeah.
back on planet Earth now, TJ. We're-
Well,
Don't come
again,
down to Texas. Don't come down to Texas. I escaped. Now I'm slamming the gate shut behind me. Nobody
Right.
else.
Oh, Texas is too.
I was
hot
the
for me.
last one who could be saved.
If interest rates go back down at some point, I'll probably. I mean, I'm as a backup. I'm probably because I was watching the Maverick film, the new Top Gun film, and Maverick, Tom Cruise's character, is in the hangar where he's living, and his bike is right next to his bed with a World War II plane. I'm like, I'm kind of at the point where that's the life I want to live. I want to live in a.
You're gonna be out. You're gonna be
live in a
able to-
hangar with a Mustang and a motorcycle.
Yeah.
There are worse ways
Yeah.
to live.
Yeah. out there with Reese.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey,
Anyway.
since you're going all trad, Mac, at least there are examples of Oscar from Evangelion wearing the sundress and the hat.
I have that. I haven't posted it yet.
You can
though.
totally do the sun hat and flower dress thing.
I've considered just cosplaying the blonde Wojak with the flat blue flower shirt that gets, and just making it my and just like standing in a field somewhere and making it my profile picture for a little bit.
Holding a basket of eggs or some chickens or some shit.
Yeah, I'll like dress my dachshunds up as chickens or something and hold them.
You totally do that. That'll work. It just freak everybody the fuck. They wouldn't know
Apparently,
where
the only qualification for being trad online now is wife in your bio.
Mhm.
Really?
Because that's the only thing traditional about me is I'm married. So apparently that's the only qualification. And I don't hate
And
my
showing your
husband.
tits.
I don't hate my husband.
That's if we're going by Twitter. That's what they're doing.
Well, that's the thing. I
If I look
try
up
to tell
up
people.
trad wife right now, I'm gonna see a lot of tits.
I try to tell people I'm not trad. I'm not wearing a bikini, and I don't post about how much I like to screw black guys. I can't be online trad. Like if you search my Twitter name,
She went through her fucking throat.
if you search my Twitter name and trad, every time someone calls me trad, I respond, I'm not trad. I don't like black guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trad. I'm not online trad.
Unlike
Also,
Aaron Clary.
I would argue if you're online, nobody, even if you're like a homesteading and you post pictures of your chickens, I would argue you're not trad. You got to go full Amish if you're gonna go. You got to go way back to be
Yeah,
trad.
that's true. Yeah, you got to be like.
Let alone the anime.
You've got to not know I exist.
you got to be in pure.
trad.
You got to be
Yeah.
puritanical Massachusetts.
Yeah.
James, you want to read Bulrush's comment?
What do we got? Bull Rush 4570 says she should cosplay TJ Shed.
Shed.
I saw
I don't
someone
think he has a
ask-
he doesn't have a shed anymore. He fucking sold that when he sold his house. He has
got rid of his she shed.
He
He got rid of his
cos-
she shed. Yes, he did.
Yeah, she can cosplay his garage.
Garage. Hmm.
Ladies, if you look like a 4x5 A-frame, which has not been properly leveled, is composed of junk wood, has maybe a roof or it's maybe tarp, and men like to do podcasts
With
in you,
tin.
please get in my DMs. Big fan of the shed life.
DM me if you look like this.
DM me if you look like this.
You
if
are
look
in
like the shed.
you are in a shed as we speak.
No, I'm in
Just
my
go with
best
the
friend's
joke.
house.
Just go with the joke. Come on, you're letting me
No,
down. You're just letting me down.
I am
Just
letting you down because
You're
I don't
letting
know
me
how to
down.
follow that one through, so I just had to shut you down
Well,
before.
just go.
Before
just
I had to make
just-
you fumble,
just
so I
go
wouldn't
ro-
look bad.
Just roll with it. Just roll with it.
I threw you in front of the grenade
you
to
haven't
save
been on in
myself.
fucking months, and you can't even roll with it. Yeah,
Well, let's
you're
see
letting-
how many times you've.
You're
emailed
letting me
the
down. You're letting
link
me down. You know
so
what? You're letting me down. Just you're going away. You're going away. You're going backstage. See, I got you. Yes, I got you.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I was waiting for. See, this
know,
is much
right?
funnier than whatever I was going to say about the shed.
That's true. That's true. I'll give you that. You are clever that way. But you know what? There you go. But yeah, what were we talking about? I'm sorry. Before James interrupted us.
I was narrating something.
You were narrating Bulrush's.
You were putting words into Bulrush's mouth.
No,
I was
exactly.
Which
putting
is probably
words
one
in
of the nicer things that have been put in Bulrush's mouth.
We
Um,
made. Don't mind for it.
Let's not even go
It's
there.
too easy. Two of us already went there.
Yeah.
You did go there, yes, and it's a shame because he's not here to defend himself. But fuck him anyway.
We've got the other 2/5 of a compromise.
That's true.
Whoa. Sorry, guys, I had to step up for a second. What did I miss?
You missed
The three-fifths
everything.
compromise.
You missed the
Hilarity.
compromise. You missed the shed, and you missed me doing this.
What happened to James?
I got rid of him.
That's what he did. That's
Oh,
what
you
he
got
meant.
rid of him. Oh,
I just put him I put him backstage. Like, see, I could do that to you too if I want to, like that, just like that.
So what about sheds?
Bulrush made a comment about sheds, and there you go. I'm gonna throw it back up.
Your shed in particular.
TJ shed. I'm not sure how that would work.
Oh my God, you're taking
You're
it literal.
putting thought into this. Are you going to roll
Jesus
for
Christ.
perception too?
Yeah, I might need to roll for perception because it is Bull Rush. I mean,
Good, James. Read that one.
Ladies, if you look like Clary with a wig, raid James's DMs.
There you go.
Do not.
So, Mac, do
Mac.
you have any conventions coming up?
No.
Since you're not
I'm-
going to AX, and do you want to talk about why?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes.
Oh God, yeah. Well, I tweeted. I'm probably just gonna give up on conventions for a while, just because they're all. I mean, there's one small one locally that's kind of a friend of a family friend that runs it, and he's trying to get up and going. So I help him promote it and stuff. That's a couple hours south of me that I'd probably drive to every year. But
Are there
I'm just
any
kinda
not requiring vaccines or mask?
that's the thing. Not really. The one literally like really close to where I live, that's probably mid-size. They would always required them no matter what. And what's so idiotic about that is a lot of places did it because convention centers themselves were requiring it, so they didn't have a choice. But then there's these idiots who the convention center isn't requiring it. The county that it's in never had a mandate at all, even in the height of everything. And they're still doing it. And masks and that sort of thing. And of course, there's all these comments, positives, saying, this is so great, thanks. I'm like, yeah, those people aren't even coming because they're too scared to leave their damn house. So, and what's been so hilarious is I'm watching all these cosplayers locally and otherwise that I follow on Instagram post on their Instagram stories. Hey guys, just so you know, I tested positive. So I'm like, wow, that's weird. You have all these requirements and everyone had to show their identification card to get in, and you're still getting it.
And they're grateful for being vaccinated and boosted.
Yeah, because it wouldn't have been
still sick.
Here's the secret. We're all faking it. None of those cards are real.
Right.
Hopefully.
Guys, going to a convention is the new drinking underage.
I'm not going to do that though, because I honestly,
sure?
I thought about it. It would be super easy. I know
Come
people. I'm libertarian. I can get a fake card. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Or I can get a lot of fake.
This is
things
in our
if I
blood.
need to.
Like we should be faking everything.
But I don't know. I just don't want to. I'm tired of giving money to people that fucking hate me.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm done.
I'm absolutely in the same
And
boat.
now, like I said, I'm 28. Listen, I'm going to be 29 in December. I'm basically 30. Okay. I'm done giving money to people that hate me. When I was younger and I really wanted to go to these things and meet people, it was one thing. Now I just cannot be bothered, to be honest. I'll cosplay in my house still. I'm still probably going to do costuming and things like that because it's fun.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And AX as a whole, that was hilarious. But.
Yeah, that was absolutely ridiculous and
What
very
exactly is
disappointing.
that?
So what happened with Anime Expo, which is in California, which made it even more hilarious. It's a huge anime convention. To be fair, it is kind of known as a shit show. It's called Line Con by a lot of people because you stand in line. I've never been, but I have a lot of friends there. You stand in line for hours. Last year, there was it was the year before all this went down. It was known for not being run very well anymore. It was it's too big. It's not run well. Well, they decided, I don't know, was it last week? They removed their vaccination requirement. They were still going to have people wear masks, but they said, hey, we've decided you don't have to be vaccinated. The turnaround was immensely quick. I don't know how many days. It might have been like less than 48 hours that they turned it around.
It was, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think it was within, I don't know exactly how long. It was less than 48 hours after they made that announcement.
Yeah.
They were rated on social media. They were getting threats. People were saying, this is ridiculous. We've bought our tickets and now we're going to be surrounded by toxins and things like that. And having panic attacks and saying, well, I'm like, wow, it's just crazy. So many of you have autoimmune diseases. That's weird. Saying they were in danger, and they reinstated it again. So to be honest, I was surprised they repealed it to begin with, because like I said, they're in California. That is not a convention I would ever even expect to put something out saying we're not doing this. And at first I was encouraged, and then I go, no, let me wait until the convention. And sure enough, they gave in, of course, to people who probably aren't even really going to go and are just virtue signaling online, of course, because we need thumbs uppies to prove how good of people we are. And they reinstated it. within 2 days.
Mhm.
And then, of course, all the comments were, "Oh, thank you so much for doing the right thing."
What
and,
kind of
and
what
all
kind of
this.
weird ass covering is that
Like-
though? Where do you think that came down from? The decision to do that.
Came from their abusive mom.
Your abusive mom,
Probably. I'm
Probably.
going to call her in.
right? Jesus Christ.
But I mean, Origins, last
For that
weekend?
terrible thing she did. I'm not going to specify what.
Yeah.
She knows.
She knows what she
Origins last weekend had you had to be fully vaccinated and wear a mask. Gen Con is still requiring you be fully vaccinated, wear a mask.
did. Oh yeah.
Starbase Indy, which is a small science Star Trek convention, which if ever there was a convention you need to promote and get as many people there as possible, since Star Trek is, if not dead, certainly dying.
Yeah.
Well, it's being murdered, but that's a whole other.
It's a
topic for a
homicide
show.
situation.
Yes, it very much is.
Slow swirl of the drain.
But even they, who are all about following the science, are requiring masks and to be fully vaccinated. And they're like, well, this is subject to change as things go on. And the thing that I think is so funny is all these people talking about having autoimmune diseases. If you have an autoimmune disease and you're taking one of those vaccines, you are nuts, because I have seen personally, firsthand, so many people. In fact, I know someone who on Monday just had their thyroid removed because they took the vaccine. They were young, in their early 20s.
Jesus.
They had a thyroid storm, which almost cost them their life. They were fortunate enough to survive that. The vaccine triggered an autoimmune disease, activated it, and now they've got their thyroid removed. And so, of course, thanks to Big Pharma, they will be taking medicines for the rest of their life and have all kinds of things to have to deal with because they no longer have a thyroid in their body.
Also, just in general, if you have an autoimmune disease, even before any of this went down, what the hell are you doing going to conventions with thousands and thousands of sweaty, unshowered nerds? Because con flu is real.
That's
It
a
always
thing.
has been real. I mean, I'm a cleanly person. If I've gone out of town a couple of times, and just because you're in a new environment, you can get
The
sick.
con crud is real.
Yeah, and no
it's
matter
real.
how potent the alcohol is, or
Doesn't
how
matter.
cute the
Doesn't kill
girl
it.
or
Will not
guy
kill it.
sharing the drink with you, it's not going to kill their germs.
No.
That you need a bag of antibiotics and some deodorant when you walk into that place.
Yeah, they should hand it out for free. That would do more
Exactly.
than the masks.
That should be the swag bag.
Yeah.
Antibiotics and deodorant.
I don't know that Gary Con was requiring vaccines, but they were requiring masks, and that's the whole reason I didn't even go to Gary Con this year.
I know.
And
I
I'd
was
love
thinking
to go
about
to
this
Gary
year
Con.
too.
Well,
That's on my
what-
list
Yeah.
too, but I'm not doing that either. Fuck
What
that.
I don't understand is, I get they're pushing the vaccine bullshit. They're gonna continue to do that, even though it's insane. But
Even
the
though every
mask-
day, even major media corporations are admitting there are issues.
Yeah. Well, and with the mask, even the CDC came out and said, "Hey, we're not recommending these anymore."
No.
So it's like I commented on the convention local to me. Of course, they magically, wow, they responded to every comment but my comment, because I asked, "Hey, I understand you implemented this because you're following CDC recommendations. Why are you no longer following CDC recommendations now?"
Mhm.
Because they're not. The CDC is no longer recommending that.
Yeah.
So they've chosen, of course. So that just tells you it was all about just looking good and being under peer pressure. Because if it was actually following the science, of course, they would be like, "Okay, well, no masks anymore. We'd prefer that you be, vaccinated, but whatever, it's your choice." But of course, they're not going to say that, which of course is hilarious. It's just especially hilarious. The sci-fi conventions are doing it because there's so many themes in just every sci-fi show that saying be nonconformist, authority is not necessarily the best thing, and then they're all making you show your identification and papers, please,
show
which is
your
absolutely
papers?
hilarious. But,
Yeah, it's funny. The people that say follow the science the loudest don't, just like the people with the coexist bumper stickers are the most antisocial, hateful people you'll probably ever meet. It's just the irony and hypocrisy is just difficult to wrap.
I
your brain
mean,
around
they don't
sometimes.
mean us.
No. Yes, coexist with every. Embrace diversity unless you're different.
Yeah.
Then we don't like you.
Yeah.
Well, different in
No,
a, different
I
in a very
I've come
particular
around to
way.
that way of thought now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Fuck 'em.
Be different like the rest of us, Borg. Yeah, we're all individuals in the Borg.
I just spent like 10 minutes going through Dragon Con policies. I don't think that 2022 will have a mask mandate, but I am not sure.
Yeah, they did. I think they did last year, which I have not been to Dragon Con for a couple years, mainly because there was a time it was a blast. I mean, I could tell you some really wonderful stories. I met some really wonderful celebrities, some really interesting experiences. But the word got out that Dragon Con, besides being on a World Series level costuming, is basically Mardi Gras for geeks and nerds.
Oh yeah.
And so that's brought in a whole party element to the convention who aren't there for the stuff. They're there for the party. And plus now it coincides with some major college football games in Atlanta.
Lord.
And the football fans, the football fans found out about the con rates at the hotels.
Oh,
so
no.
it's almost impossible to get a room. You could get a room the week before Dragon Con at probably about 10-15 years ago. You are lucky to get a convention room the day the hotel rooms go on sale. And
it's tricky. Some people do manage. Some people rent out I went in 2019. It was my first con.
Really? That's a hell of a first con to have.
Yeah, it's a first.
Yeah.
Ill-timed too, but it was fun. It was really fun.
Yeah, it's
one of the guys I stayed with. It was they had a buddy who was had their BDSM club had like an entire floor rented out. Basically, they planned the rooms and stuff like that. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'm not into the party con thing. So any con that's a party con, I'm like, okay. No.
Well, it was really interesting. I was in the I think it was the Hyatt. It was in the Hyatt, in the bar at the Hyatt, and the actor who played, if you saw the original Star Wars movie, the Imperial officer that was choked by Darth Vader.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Admiral Mahdi, played by Richard LeParmentier.
Pretty sure I saw them in the BDSM club.
Yeah, actually, he's been dead for a few years. He's in the bar with me and a bunch of friends from the Star Wars community, with his arm around me, drinking, telling stories about making that movie and things about George Lucas. So
that's cool.
It was a surreal experience because I was 9 when Star Wars came out in May of '77. So 9-year-old me, had you told me, hey, that guy Darth Vader just choked, he's going to be hanging out in a bar with his arm around you telling stories,
choking you up,
I would have been like, there's no way in hell. I mean, he's on like the other side of the world. There's no way I'm ever going to meet him. So
yeah, I normally go to Necronomicon. It's an H.P. Lovecraft literary convention in Providence, Rhode Island, during the week of H.P. Lovecraft's birthday, third week in August. Nice. I've been going to that since it started. There was one in early 2000, and then it stopped. It fell apart, and then it reinstated and started back up again in 2013. And I've been going. It happens every 2 years, and I go, and I've been going since 2013. In highlighted form, I have up here on the screen. This is why I am not going this year.
I'm surprised that hasn't been hashtag cancel yet, just because of who it's a convention for at this point.
Yeah.
As pathetic as that is.
They can eat a bag of dicks. I'm not going there. I told my buddies, like, oh, thanks for telling me last minute. I'm like, dude, you've got 2 months to get someone to share the hotel rooms with you. You'll find somebody. I'm not doing this. Sorry. Once again, I'm not paying to put up with this bullshit. I'm just not doing it.
Yeah,
and it's getting more as the years go by. It's getting more woke, and I don't have time for that shit either. I just don't have time. I'm not
woke
gonna.
Lovecraft? How is that even possible?
Well, let's put it this way: you have a dead man who can't defend himself, and you look at racism out of context and out of time, and you go, "Oh, Lovecraft is racist," and then you come up with panel discussions on why the very convention that you're at. And you're lambasting the man that is giving you a platform to have a convention.
It's
Right.
So now
disgusting.
it's not about HP Lovecraft anymore. It's about their woke agenda.
Yeah. Can you
And I'm
imagine?
not doing that anymore. And so I told my buddy, I'm like, I don't fuck it. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
I'm not, you're on your own. And
The man had guys in Massachusetts turning into fishmen. I mean, come on.
What I find amazing about this is the psychological makeup of somebody who attends a conference. This is like me attending a Karl Marx conference and then describing how Karl Marx was a bad guy. Like, if you think that this person's a bad person, why are you participating? But this is I don't know if it's necessarily a left, like distinctly left wing, but there's a certain mindset and mentality of I want to join a group where I don't belong and then turn the group into something where I belong and then destroy the group. Like this, it's the parasitical mindset. I want to feed off your toast. Yeah. And it's like, it's kind of like what Bill Burr was saying about like, when his wife has girls over and they're having a party, he goes, I don't want to be there. I don't belong there. Right.
Mhm.
It's the same thing where
it's just not appropriate.
It's just
you
not
realize
appropriate.
where you're not appropriate.
You don't want to be. You don't want to be. Yeah, you don't want to be where you don't belong. You don't belong. So you just and it doesn't bother you because you're not an insecure prick. But all these other people just feel like this obsession with being inclusive. That's for losers. Because people who are winners don't have to worry about being included because everybody wants them to be included, or they are the ones creating the spaces that everybody wants to be included in. Like they are concerned with exclusivity. They're concerned about keeping people out who are losers. So
I don't really get it. Like I have people ask me, why don't you go to more comic conventions and why don't you cosplay more from comics? I go, because I don't read comics.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a no-brainer for me. I've got like, I watch the cartoons, so occasionally I will cosplay something from like the old Batman cartoons because I actually grew up watching those. But I'm not going to cosplay something from. I have a comic book cosplay. It's a version of Poison Ivy. I've never worn it because I bought it and then I was like, no, I didn't read this. I didn't read it, so it just feels stupid. I sold it. I'm like, I've never wore it. I literally bought it. I'm like, wow, this looks really cool, but I feel stupid wearing it. And I'm not going to a Comic-Con, so where would I even wear it? It's just silly. So I don't understand this. I don't know if it's because I would like to just blame it on, oh, well, nerds and geeks are marginalized, so they want to feel powerful. But I don't really think that's it because like Robert was talking about earlier, so they used to be back then too. And there wasn't this weird parasitic, let's take this over, even though we don't like it. It was about enjoying the fandom, not taking over the fandom and making it something you can enjoy. That's never what this was. And like TJ said, I don't know if it's just leftism. I don't know what it is. It does certainly seem that a lot of the convention chairs, like the heads of the conventions, are they're nut bags. They might as well make it a Karl Marx convention because they're nut bags. It just doesn't make any sense. And like I said, I'm not gonna give them my money anymore.
Well, if you glance at who some of the staff members are for Gen Con, including their I think their community organizer person, it is, and this is true for several other conventions as well. Imagine, if you will, a purple-haired bipedal land manatee, and that's who it is.
There she blows.
And that's who is in charge. And they are almost universally female. Yeah. Sorry, Mac, but I mean they are.
No apologies necessary.
Yeah, and
there's a reason I don't have a lot of cosplay friends that are females.
And and they fit a certain stereotype.
Yep.
And it is, for me, as someone who has been actively involved at various levels of fandom in conventions, both in a fan capacity and even in a professional capacity, it is shocking to have reached a point where things that I have loved, devoted an excessive amount of my lifetime to, and more money than I really want to, not that you could tell looking at that any money was involved in my hobbies, that I'm no longer welcome. I am persona non grata. And that's absolutely ridiculous. And the thing is, we were always inclusive, we were always welcoming. That's how we got kicked out, because we did not gatekeep.
Yeah.
So learn your lessons. If there's something you like, whether it's your local disc golf club or your cigar lounge or whatever, gatekeep the hell out of it. If you love it, if you care about it at all. I still to this very day get Star Wars stuff from people as gifts, birthday, Christmas, whatever. And it's hard for certain people in my life, including family members, to realize that something with which I had a very deep relationship with since I was a 9-year-old boy is no longer a part of my life.
Yeah.
They just can't understand that. And it's absolutely the fault of the current management ownership of Lucasfilm and the people at Disney.
What's unfortunate is sometimes it's hard. I'm glad that there's plenty of people that understand that went to these things and did their whole lives. But I understand why a lot of people struggle, because no one back then was inclusive, ever having any inkling of thinking that this was going to happen. It was, we understand what it's like to be the weirdos and the geeks and things like that. We want to invite you in and share our hobby with you. It was not, nobody did that thinking these idiots and these crazoids are going to come in and change it and then kick us out. But what people need to understand is they're not, and it's very obvious now, they're not going to give people that courtesy. When the purple manatees take over, they're going to then look at you and go, okay, get out.
You're done. Your
time is done.
No, they're going to say
our time now.
They're going to use that magic word. You're problematic.
Yes, you're too problematic. Yes, if it weren't for people like you, there would be nothing for me to take over. We have zero respect for those people. So you need to get out. And that's what's unfortunate. I almost wish, especially when it comes to anime cons, the Japanese would pull rank and be like, what the hell are you guys doing? What? We're going to take this over from you. We're going to run the cons now.
Right.
You people need to calm down, and we're going to copyright all of you, and you're not going to be able to do this shit anymore. They won't, but in my head, that would be absolutely hilarious to see.
Even cosplay in Japan is very different. I mean,
oh yeah,
I don't even use that word very often, at least not in the context of American conventions, because that's what that word means. And what it is in Japan is so very different. It's just like the word otaku. If you walk around the streets of Japan calling yourself an otaku, hey, I'm an otaku.
They're going to look at you like you have 6 heads.
Yeah. Whereas, here it's been, taken and you could either argue bastardized or corrupted or what have you. And, and it has a different meaning. And so... But yeah, I mean, and the way they do conventions are very different.
Oh,
but I mean, that's easy to do when you are an island nation that still in the 21st century is very, homogeneous, and that's just very, very different to do here.
Yeah, I think with the like you were saying, I mean, I think it's the country's 95, 96, 97% ethnically Japanese.
Oh, it's more than that. It's like 99 point something.
Yeah, they're not.
You just talk with Modern Life John, and he'll tell you about racism.
It's crazy.
Well, and the thing is that my guess is they're not having any of these discussions or conversations that we're having in America today about identity or who are we or whatever. It's like they've lived on that. Those people have lived on that island for thousands of years. There's no conversation. This is who we are. Let's move on to doing an anime convention or whatever it is. They're not, there's no, I don't know what the politics are like there, but I just know that it's probably like you were saying with a lot of stuff that they do differently. None of this stuff exists there. And it doesn't exist in other Asian cultures either that are, in East Asia or something like that. So I just think that that's part of the thing is that they're not, not to say that Japanese don't have other problems going on. Like they need to start having more sex.
They actually need to start breeding.
Yeah, they
That's
need
what
to
the
start-
anime's for. All the Westerners are like, why is this anime so degenerate? I'm like, they're trying to convince people to have sex with the anime. It's supposed to be propaganda.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it's only working for, degenerate Westerners who
Yeah,
think they're going to go get a
right.
Japanese
And they're not
wife.
going to do
but,
it. They're going to starve those boomers to death. Those old people, they're not doing the Social Security. They're on a countrywide strike against the Social Security structure.
They're
Good.
done. They're
Well,
done.
and the
Good.
thing is, Japanese shows are still allowed to show, despite some changes to make certain things appeal to the West. As far as within, like, say, the context of Sentai shows and stuff like that, which they know are going to be turned into Power Rangers. The whole point, though, of those Sentai shows was to teach young Japanese boys how to grow up and be good Japanese men. They were morality tales for little Japanese boys, the way American comics used to be morality tales to little American boys. Truth, justice, the American way. These are ideas to aspire to lean up to be noble, to be heroic, to fight crime, to do this, to do whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was part entertainment and part propaganda, but it was morality tales to, back when, you could have the idea of an American culture and American values, which could be, based on Judeo-Christian, Protestant work ethic and so on and so forth. And of course, all of that stuff has been actively torn down.
now they're
since the
morality
60s.
tales, but
Yeah.
they're
but
immorality tales.
They're
now.
immorality tales. And
So many ways to be yourself in the U.S. Army.
yeah. Yeah. My gay mother's got married, so I've always been fighting for justice.
Ugh.
So that's what we want. We want girls smaller than Mac on the front lines. Yeah.
Yes.
You
I'm,
Yeah,
good
I'm
luck
listening-
with China.
No, get ready. I'm going to first. China's not a threat.
Well, not
China
well,
is-
Never
they don't
will be.
have to be.
Never
They don't
will
need a
be.
military.
None of the jingoism ever panned out. Grew up after 9/11. It's all lies. It's all lies. Ukraine is still fighting off Russia. It was all lies. I don't care. No, we need to send more like young women to the front lines of every war. Send them to every war. We're gonna put a pause on the male draft.
No, James can do the voice. He can do "Good Morning," Ukraine, like Robin Williams did. Good Morning, Vietnam, right?
Good morning,
Ukraine!
You're all going to the front, bitches.
Hey, guess what? I heard there's a supply depot full of tampons right past the front trench.
That could
At
be
least-
the Kelly's heroes of the LGBTQ plus trannies. It's like, oh, we got men, but we got to get the storage shed full of tampons.
Oh,
That's
that's the
what's
thing.
so funny is Ukraine wasn't letting them out because they were like, you're male. What are you? You're not leaving. What are you talking about? Well,
Like,
all
why were they
male.
letting the women
You're a
go?
biologist?
Why were they letting the women go?
So they could
They
Listen,
can't do something for the cause.
They
I
can
will
go to
tell you,
another
though,
country and create.
I have a
Ukrainian
friend.
baby
You can't show
counts.
your tits in the trenches. This is too much to ask. No, this guy needs to go die.
Listen,
but you
Ukrainian
get the-
women are much more hardy than Western women, though. I'll tell you that. My friend's got a Ukrainian wife. I fully believe she could take some people down. So I don't know why they were letting the women go. They should have just let the kids go. Whatever. Let the kids and the pets go.
No, fuck him. Fuck the kid. Were you guys talking about kids and conventions earlier?
Yeah,
I missed that part. Yeah,
Yeah, we
You
were
guys
talking about
need-
how kids are just at full-on fetish cons now without
need to be
parental
banned
supervision.
from all conventions. We need to help these.
Well,
these-
James,
these
you
poor
remember?
people.
You may be too young to remember this, but I was talking about this earlier. The Ritz movie theater in Voorhees. Back when they were showing, before it was bought out commercially, it was privately owned, and they were running art house films, with the exception of maybe one or two commercial films to bring in more money. But they had rules.
My dad went there a lot.
Well, there you go. One of many rules. Well, number one, no one under 5 allowed.
Mhm.
Anyone under 17 or 18 had to be accompanied by an adult.
Yeah,
I
that's
fully
just how it
support
should
that.
be. Don't let kids anywhere. Hey, can I bring my
Yeah.
kids? No,
No, you can't.
no, never.
It's funny you say that. When I went to the midnight showing in 2001 for Fellowship of the Ring. First in line at the was it the Cinemark? Anyway, it was in Cherry Hill. And I'm all excited with my friends, a line of friends. I got all tickets. So we're basically in the back, top row, where we want to sit, direct center. This is going to be fucking fantastic.
Mhm.
This couple fucking walks in late. When
No.
the opening. Oh, yeah. They
No,
bring
I
a-
know where this is going.
They bring a goddamn infant in. I was going to kill everybody in that movie theater.
Starting with the infant.
Starting with the infant. So, but here's the redeeming factor. They gave that fucking kid NyQuil or some shit because that fucker slept through the entire fucking movie.
Mhm.
It was amazing. It was amazing. But when I first saw
Practically-
that kid,
probably
that
wasn't
kid,
even a real baby. It was just to scare you.
no, I know, right? No, it was a real kid, all right. It was a real kid because it was like
Was it
moving
actually
around
a baby
and
or was
burping.
it a small kid?
No,
I
it
was
was a
going to say,
baby.
was it their emotional support dog or something?
No,
That's-
it was a legitimate infant because it was burping and moving around in its sleep and like moving its hands, but it did not
Well,
cry.
it could have been Aaron Clary.
Well, Aaron is short, but then that's true. I would say it would be more like Rob.
Oh, okay.
Rob, it could have been Rob with the beanie on.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah, because babies do
when
wear
I
those
first
little hats.
exactly when I first saw that fucking kid, I'm like, I am gonna murder everyone in this fucking movie
Oh,
theater. I've waited for years for this fucking thing, and this kid's gonna fucking cry. No fucking way.
God, I will never forget. I just hate little kids in movie theaters. There should be separate family theaters.
Well, not only that, and I've seen a lot of an uptick in restaurants.
yeah.
Or like in bars where they just
There,
don't
I feel
belong.
like, did I hallucinate? I feel like when I was growing up, 90s, early 2000s, there used to be like family sections of restaurants. I
There were,
swear.
like a smoking section
swear.
in the 70s and
Like,
80s. Like it went to like
Getting rid of
you'd be in-
smoking
you'd be
sections
in
was a
an IHOP.
disaster.
Yeah, it should all be smoking sections.
'Cause
Including
then
the-
you-
especially the family
Well,
section.
I would like to say because then there would be no kids, but God knows people would
Yes.
just bring their kids into smoking restaurants anyway.
yeah.
Oh, there are
Well,
pictures from the 70s of kids with sitting with open
Robert and I
beers
grew up with that. In
cigarettes.
fact, Cracker Barrel used to have a smoking section up until the late 90s.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
Vince and
I-
I are old enough that we can remember child labor. So
We were child
were
labor.
child
You
labor.
were the child labor.
Yeah,
we were
so-
child labor.
I like to,
I-
Gen X really likes to think that no kids worked after them.
Well, you were on a farm, so that's
You were picking nits
yeah,
off horses.
that's different.
I was picking cotton actually, but
Yeah.
Jesus
Hey, guys,
Christ.
why did- why
Swing
did you-
low, sweet
The Irish
chariot.
half was picking the
Irish-
You're picking fucking potatoes, weren't you?
exactly. Yeah.
You you potato. Never mind. TJ knows
What's
what I'm
that,
gonna say.
TJ?
You both know what I'm gonna say.
I gotta head out on this one, guys.
Okay.
What
This
the
is-
fuck?
No,
He's
TJ.
funny.
Bye,
All right, go cut your lawn at your graveyard. It's true. He has a Forrest Gump lawn cutting gig at a graveyard.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Gets
Great
paid some
gig.
good money for it
Landscaping
too.
at a cemetery is a great gig.
Yeah. And no one's gonna bother. No kids.
No kids. Well, there might be some, but they won't bother
Well,
you.
dead ones.
They're not going to
anyway.
last the night.
Right there.
There's a family section. There's a family section just for them.
It's a
Oh,
smoking section.
no.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't understand why people, not even just convention, just why are you bringing your kids to inappropriate places? I will never forget my husband and I's first date. We went to see this movie, and there were just titties out in the movie. It was rated R. There was boobs in the movie.
I like it already.
It was, I think it was Project X.
Oh
It was
no,
a-
where?
it was a stupid movie about like a giant party basically, and we
Mhm.
just went. It was popular at the time, and there was like a legitimate 2-year-old child in front of us at this rated R, just a boobies out movie. And I remember looking at him and go, "Is that a child?" And us just
Mhm.
being horrified. Finally, about
He's not
halfway
gonna
through
remember.
the movie, the parents had enough sense to go, "Oh, okay," and leave the movie.
Mhm.
But I'm like,
Yeah.
it's a rated R. What are you doing? Bringing
Shouldn't
your
even be
kid
there in the
into
first
a rated
place.
R movie.
Yeah. It's called babysitters.
Oh yeah, it's just ridiculous. Maybe that was the babysitter. I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
Oh, I saw parents bring kids to really graphic horror movies when I worked
Oh,
at a movie
God.
theater. So I mean, yeah, it just
People are stupid. It's like TJ said earlier. People are just stupid. It's
Yeah.
not lack of. It's not anything, but people are just dumb. That's
Yep.
all it is. They just don't care. They're dumb.
That's good. The problem with the conventions, especially, is because people are going to bring them in, and then people are going to use the kids as justifications for taking away tits.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like,
they're
no,
already
they should
doing
leave.
that actually. There was a huge, especially in anime cons. So I don't know if you guys know what like Ahego hoodies are. It's basically like these hoodies, and now I'm gonna get a full outfit made out of it and attend conventions in it because I
No.
like pissing people off. It's basically like hentai panels of girls making sex faces, basically is what
face.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a huge controversy. There has been over the past couple years. Hilariously enough, mostly from women, of course, the ones that wear bikini costumes saying, oh my God, those guys are so disgusting for wearing those hoodies. It's so inappropriate. There's kids at cons. I'm like, you have your D cups out, ma'am.
Yeah,
That's fine. But a car, it's not, they don't show any of the sex. It's just the face. That's it.
Yeah.
So really, if your kid knows what that is, you should be worried.
There was a completely different problem. No, moms should live. What's the line? Here it is. Moms should live in terror, driving straight from home to school to home with one arm on the wheel and one arm over their kids' eyes in terror that an erect penis or a pair of tips are going to flop into view. Okay, I'm done making any concession to them whatsoever.
Yeah, it's
I'm done with the trad saying like, oh well, we gotta. Actually, it's just for the kids. You don't hate kids, do you? That's why I'm taking these tits away from you.
Yeah.
You don't hate kids. Now I hate kids. Get them away.
Yes, if that's what it takes. Yes, I do. Get them out. Yeah,
I'm
it's
calling your
silly.
bluff. Get them out.
Well, and that's the thing, especially with the hoodie that people wear at anime cons. Like I said, a kid doesn't even know what that is.
You don't know what that face is.
They don't know what that is. In fact, you probably don't even know what it is because, like we talked about earlier, you're all fake anyway. You don't even know why that's funny or why that even became a meme at all. So
Yeah.
it's silly. I just don't.
Yeah, they're
like we
they're
talked
about
about
as
earlier.
real
Separate.
as Yaya Han's breasts. So
Yeah. Well, but those can be out in front of the kids. That's fine.
yeah, well, you paid
And
good
those
money
are
for
real.
them. Yeah.
So, well,
Well,
they're
they're-
physically real.
yeah, they're yeah,
They're
they're at least saline. So I mean,
Tangible.
she spent good
They're
money on
tangible,
those.
yeah.
That was a business investment, so she could sell more pictures of herself dressed as.
I don't understand why these girls who I fully understand getting the boob job to be character accurate, whatever, but why are they not getting butt jobs too? Because it looks so funny when they get these huge fake boobs and then they turn around and you're like, where's your butt?
Flat
You
as
don't
a
have a
rail.
butt.
Looks like
Get
two
a Brazilian
Probably
butt lift.
laziness.
It looks like two bowling balls on a washboard.
Though I don't know. I guess if you're cosplaying Japanese characters, like anime characters, that's accurate because they probably don't actually have butts.
Let's
most
go
of the
down to
time.
Brazil.
Anorexia
Just go down to Brazil. You'll get the ass jobs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's silliness. I don't understand. And it's not like it's annoying that they're trying to ban things for the kids, but also I'm just sincerely concerned that your kids are going to be groomed at these things at this point. Like it's not
It's
just
going to have the opposite effect of what it's being.
Our poor
touted as.
pedophiles who went to these conventions to take a break from heroically saving kids at Ilvati, doing the jobs of the police, or heroic teachers with specific sexual preferences in regards to children. They go to these conventions to be away from the rigor and temptation of their day job. And here we are, and here traditional moms and dads
it's
are
like a buffet.
flaunting
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
vulnerable children, telling them to run through the halls without a care in the world.
well, the thing with the predators at conventions that goes back to
Oh
the
yeah.
very early days of fandom. I mean,
Fucking
look,
yeah.
look up Breen Doggle on the internet sometime, and that'll tell
Oh,
you a
no.
little secret history of sci-fi
Now it's
and
just
fantasy
open.
fandom.
Yeah.
You know,
The founder of Dragon Con got caught, I think, like 3 years, like right after
Yeah.
I went.
mhm.
I
Yeah.
was almost groomed by him, actually.
Really,
I was almost groomed by all the convention
Oh, no.
founders.
No, but that's what I mean, it's not funny. No, it's funny. I'll say it's funny. It's fine. I can say
It is funny. It is also tragic.
It's funny that so all of these cons for the most part, especially anime cons now, are just run by pieces of shit leftists who
Mhm.
constantly virtue signal about their morality. And then there's one guy that runs like 4 or 5 Midwestern anime conventions, and everyone's like, don't attend his conventions because he's a predator. I go, well, that's weird. You people are the cosplay is not consent people, and I'm sure he's posted about that on his Facebook. Yet here he is being the one being inappropriate with people and groping people and grooming people. Crazy how that works. The people that constantly are signaling.
That piece of shit pushing for the gender neutral bathrooms was just indicted on child molestation charges.
It's projection is all it is.
Yeah.
It's like there's this whole...
they're going to try to convince themselves they're not the way they are by being anti what they are.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Well, look at Marion Zimmer Bradley, going back to Mr. Breen, with whom she was married to, a feminist icon within fantasy literature. And so I mean,
read The Last Closet by not Marion Brown,
her daughter
something Brown.
Yeah.
The Last Closet. Is that where Clary came out of?
Stomach it.
That's it. Yeah. No, it's bad.
Yeah, it is.
If you wanna.
No, I don't think I want to read that.
Listen, I already log on into Twitter and went to Fed Post and put myself in jail. I probably should not read that. It will only make it worse.
Twitter's enough vomit-inducing stuff for the week.
That's your fault. You got to curate your feed.
No, I do.
But
it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, but
that means you're not curating your feed.
If I curated my feed to the point of not vomiting,
I'm trying to lose weight. Are you still eating hamburgers every day?
I wouldn't see anything.
Yeah.
You just have to log off.
Yeah, I'm just trying to post Japanese model kits and talk about music, but
all right.
But I'm kind of in the same boat that Mac is to a lesser degree, because I mean, you actively take on, Democrats, Republicans, and even libertarians as far as holding people's feet to the fire, as far as
I've just been blocking them now.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny is then they get angry.
For a while you weren't.
They're angry.
For a while you were like, I'm going to stay. Yeah, and you were standing by what you believed, and even calling some people out for being cowards for you'll like something, but you won't retweet it or you won't add to it. So, but which, I commend you for doing that, because I just don't have the time to get into arguments with these people. I say something about the fact that I've actively disliked each of the Thor movies and think each Thor Marvel comic movie has gotten progressively worse, and get attacked by strangers. It's like, dude, it's a friggin' Marvel movie.
I will never forget my poor father, who does not use Twitter, who just got a Twitter. He helped coach track at my old high school, throwing and discus and shot put. And his kids made it to state, and he tweeted out something about, we are the storm. And that was like the ongoing joke. It's like, we're the storm. We're going to go into state. Very boomer. It's fine. Well, unfortunately for him, about 2 days after he tweeted that, there was a huge tornado that through our area and like tragically destroyed a bunch of people's houses and neighborhoods. So idiots, he didn't know that he could make his profile private, and he said that publicly. Well, idiots, people don't read on Twitter. We all know this. They didn't look at the data when he tweeted the storm thing. And so when people searched storm, his tweet was coming up, and people are responding how nasty he was and disrespectful, and how dare you tweet this? People died. And he's like, I don't understand, Mackenzie. What did I do? And I'm like, Dad, welcome to Twitter.
Yeah.
What you have to do is start typing now, Dad. Your house next.
Yeah.
I should have taught him how to troll instead, but instead we just locked his account down, and he's fine now. He just gets to be in his own little bubble. But I felt so bad, and it's just, I've gotten in trouble for intentionally starting shit, which, to be fair, I do. That is a thing I do. But when I do it, I own up to it. I'm like, yes, are you angry? Then it worked.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But people think that that I owe them a rebuttal now. And now I've moved out of the phase. Robert's right. I used to argue with people and quote and start fights and stuff. And it's not to say I don't put out incendiary things anymore. I do. But now if something hits 1,000 likes, I go click and I mute the tweet, and I just sit there and there's no notifications.
Post and ghost.
That's it. That's it. I'm not going to argue with you. I will occasionally go through quote tweets and block anyone who has threatened my life. But that's it. I don't care. You can, whatever. Whatever. Scream into the void.
It's supposed to be like this platform for enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
So if going out and starting fights makes you happy, that's fine. I like talking about, I used to like talking about Manosphere stuff.
Yeah.
Then I decided I like my LARPing to have big titty elves, so I focus a little bit more on that side of it nowadays. And anything that I don't feel like seeing, I mute.
Yeah, it's like I'll have people tell me, I'll have people follow me for politics, and then I'll post a cosplay, and they'll be like, "What is this weirdo shit?" I'm like, "This is me, bro. You can feel free to unfollow. I'm not gonna stop posting." People have gotten on me because I'll like anime art that is maybe not very trad. We'll just put it that way. And they're like, "Why did you like this? This is on my feed." I'm like, "If you don't want to see it, mute me.
Do you see how big those tits are?
Unfollow me." I'm like, "What do you mean? Why did I like this? Do you see this?" I mean. But some people don't like that. That's fine. That's just everyone feels entitled to you. One of my least favorite thing that people will do to me is I will tweet something and they will say, well, you didn't word this very clearly. I'm like, I don't care that you think I didn't word it clearly. The 300 other people that liked it think I worded it just fine. Don't tell me what to do with my Twitter. It's my Twitter account. Yeah, get filtered. And that's the same thing we got to do with fandoms is, oh, I'm sorry, you don't like the way that I'm doing it? Oh,
too bad.
Oh, so you can post pictures of anime characters with masks on saying mask up, but I posted a picture of myself with my gun prop and say defend yourself. Oh, now it's a problem, huh? We don't like that, do we? Too bad. And that's what they do to you. So it's like you just got to do it back and mess with them a little bit.
Well, I was in the military for 8 years, shot in competition, and I've still killed less people than Ted Kennedy has with a car. So, I make of that what you will.
There's that, yes.
So
I feel a lot safer around Robert with a prop firearm than I would Alec Baldwin.
Oh no. Well, my prop firearms are not even functional. They're just like foam or 3D printed. So
well, I was at a convention and
in your hands, I might believe you.
Yeah.
In the aforementioned.
Yeah.
No, it is funny because I've got at one point that was my profile picture of me with that prop gun, which by the way isn't even accurate to an UMP9 because it's from a Japanese game and they printed exactly how it looks in the game, and the Japanese don't know what guns look like, so it's not even accurate. And leftists were like, "See, she has a gun in her photo." I go,
I remember
that is clearly not a real gun. Right?
I remember that.
Like that would be like holding my phaser in my Samus cosplay. And you'd be like, "Oh my god, that looks dangerous." It's like it's clearly not a real weapon, but okay.
Well, what if this cosplayer has a Class 3 firearms permit?
Right.
Well, in defense of the Japanese, there are some gun otakus that do know the difference and work really hard to have very accurate plastic representations of various firearms. But I was at a convention and someone had a prop M16A2 with a grenade launcher and stuff like that. They were doing like a Metal Gear Solid costume, Solid Snake or Snake, one of them.
Nice.
And they were doing something. And they asked me if I'd hold it, and I'm like, yeah, sure. And I did. And after a while, they asked for it back. They're like, you're the only person at this convention that's held this thing that had any trigger discipline.
I know.
And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter whether it's real or not. I wasn't going to shoot. So if I'm not going to shoot, my finger doesn't need to be on the trigger. Yeah. And since I wasn't actively aiming at someone, I had my weapon pointed up and away and my finger off the trigger. That's just habit.
Yeah.
From actually handling real guns. But there was just a news story from Australia about some kid who 3D printed a fully semi-automatic rifle that fired like 15 9mm shells in one trigger pull. And this is the Australian news person saying this, and I'm like, whoa, time out. There's a gun that exists that's semi-automatic that with one trigger pull will fire 15 9mm rounds? Where do I get one?
Oh
Sign me
no!
up.
Where?
And it's all made out of plastic.
Mm.
It's
Yeah, it's silly.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. It was so funny watching the reactions to that picture because the leftoids were like, "Oh my god, she's holding a gun. This is dangerous," and everyone else was like, "Wow, this isn't even real, and your finger's not on the trigger. Bravo, good job.
Yeah.
This is clearly
Mhm.
fake." And I'm like, the two, it's the two genders. That's what it is. That's what that was
Yeah.
an example of.
Stop it.
Yeah, it's absolutely silly. The freakouts. And there's so many. That's another thing about these conventions now. There's so many. I have a character that has a magical staff. It is not even a firearm. And the last time I took it to, but even before all this craziness, like 3 years ago now, they made me put a zip tie on my magical staff. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
what?
what
On a
do you
s-
think I'm
How
going
does that?
to do?
What? That doesn't. That's retarded.
And
That
their
doesn't do
reasoning
anything.
was, oh, well, we can't put it on gun props and not this. I'm like, why not?
It's
Yes,
not
you
a
can.
gun.
Actually, you
Yes.
can. You can totally, if someone has a
That's-
because I kind of get if
that's
someone has
sort of
a
this
realistic
conversation.
looking
Yeah.
replica gun and they don't want to put an orange tip on the end because that looks ridiculous in photos, then
Well, I
a
get
zip
the
tie
gun,
that you
but
can
not-
put your
not a
hand
staff.
over,
Mhm.
fine. But my
Yeah.
magical staff, man.
That's just stupid.
Or like a weapon that doesn't even exist. Like if someone has like a phaser or something, you're gonna make them put a zip tie on that. What are you doing? So I cut it off. I just
Yeah.
brought scissors in and I just cut it off, and no one said anything to me the entire time.
I remember going to conventions with actual high carbon steel swords and daggers
Yeah.
on my hip. And guess what? It was absolutely fine.
Right.
Because we were adults. We knew not to pull them out and wave them around in public and knew
Yeah.
how to behave in public. But now, between the lack of common sense and maturity and the over litigious nature of our culture,
Mhm.
it's you can't do anything.
Well,
It's-
to be honest, I mean, it's a fair point. We're talking about these
Mm.
kids running around screaming. If someone has a real sword on their hip, it's actually not that out of the realm of possibility
No.
that a kid's going to run by you and pull your sword out and start swinging it around and hitting people with it.
Yeah,
So,
I get it.
but
I
again,
get
that's not
having
that's not your
piece knot
problem.
on there. Yeah,
yeah,
but a staff. That's just
yeah.
that's
And
just
it's like
stupid.
it's not even made out of wood. It's like a plastic, super light, like 3D printed one. That's
Mhm.
clearly. I'm like, do you think I'm gonna
Bummer.
actually cause explosions
No.
with this? I mean, that'd be cool, but that's
Yeah.
how this works.
I wish I could aim this at someone and
I
make them
wish I could
explode.
I wish I
Point it
could aim
and
this
just-
at you right
Yeah.
now.
Right. The
Right.
person
I wish
making
you
me
thought
put the
this
zip
was as
tie.
dangerous as you think it is.
Actually, when the person went to put the zip tie on, I should have went, stand back. Let me prepare it for you so you don't
Mm.
accidentally fire it. If we're
Right.
gonna be that ridiculous.
Stroke your staff.
See, I want to bring a warhorse to a convention. You know,
You should.
one that no one can touch because it's been trained to
Yeah.
instantly stampede anyone that approaches it that isn't me or my stable boy, yeah, or squire. That's what I want to do. That's what I need to do. Maybe I'll see what Bull Rush is up to, and I'll just use them.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Gunt. God, Bull Rush.
Gun. No, say no to guns.
Yeah, if we didn't have a show to do tomorrow, Vince, I'd be harassing them tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. We got our
Put,
show.
Yeah.
put a zip
We
tie
got a
on that
caning
gun.
show tomorrow.
We got it. We got
Put a
Just put a zip
That's-
tie
there
on the
we go.
horse and you're fine.
Yeah,
I put a zip. Yeah, there you go.
You know, so what we need to start entering the fat women through the zip tie section,
mhm.
There you go.
so that before, you know, if I'm looking down at my glass of water and I see a little bubble, I see the ripple, I can look down and notice the reflection of a yellow tag behind me, and I don't have to look behind me. I can just run.
You don't have to look at them and puke. You can just know
Yeah, I can.
not to
I
look
can
that
escape.
way.
Just
Say no to
remember,
guns.
objects in the rearview mirror are closer than they
Closer
appear.
They're
Yes.
very. They're really closer than they appear.
Oh no.
2 ripples.
That's the other
Yes.
thing with these kids at conventions is they do not know what personal space is. Like they just really don't. There's 2 types of people. There's the people who you can tell are they have some form of autism or something, and they come up to you and they kind of like just scoot in very slowly and say, is it okay if I can get a picture? And it takes them 5 minutes to ask you.
Mm.
Or they just run up to you because they have just no conceivable, they just have no manners or anything like that because they clearly their parents don't care about them. They're dropping them off at an anime convention to the wolves. But I just don't understand. People just don't have personal space. There's just so much wrong. It's just, and I honestly feel like all these things we've talked about tonight, they're not unfixable issues.
No.
There are very easy solutions to all common sense con control. That's what we need.
Yes.
There's easy solutions to all of this. The problem is they're never going to implement it, at least not the people currently running them. So
No.
Also, I think some of the issues there are sort of like you go to an anime convention to fix those. You go to a convention because, like, all right, you've been socially maladjusted. But let's take me, and when I went through not talking to people and not having physical touch with people for about 5 years. Very minimal contact with just about anybody, and then I go to Dragon Con because I've met people online, and you have to negotiate personal space, comfort, and reading the body language of other people around you in a way that's not necessarily intuitive, that you would have learned about a decade prior had you been raised properly. But if you weren't, you go to an anime convention, or you go to any comic book convention, and you just kind of do it. You just engage.
yeah.
Like, okay, I'm taking 5 minutes to ask this person for a photo. That's clearly this is getting annoying and tedious for them, and they're acting nice. But now I'm starting to pick up that they're really annoyed with me. And if I just run up to them and start taking photos, that they also don't like that. So now I can figure out a little bit of a middle ground or a social rules to this that I just wasn't raised with. I think.
Yeah, but doing
Out
it
of
at
everywhere.
Dragon Con was jumping in at the deep into the pool there, James.
With sharks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely with
And
sharks.
Misty cosplayers.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean that's another thing that conventions I just think for a long time have been awesome for is anybody who was extremely shy or anything like that. When I went to my first convention, I was not wearing costume. I wanted to wear a costume, but I still felt weird. I didn't know how many people were going to be wearing costumes. So I wore like the most generic scroll girl outfit possible.
Am I going to be the only kid with my pajamas tomorrow at school?
Yeah, I was like, okay, I don't want to go full in. And the guy at the table actually he was like, oh, nice costume, and gave me the character discount. I didn't have the heart to tell him I'm not a character. This is just it's a closet cosplay, which people do, to be fair. But then I saw everyone, and it was more comforting. I was like, oh, okay. And then the next year I just went all out and got like, it wasn't spandex. I got latex bodysuit. 10 out of 10 would not recommend, by the way. Jesus. I lasted for about 2 hours in that thing. And then I was like, okay, I'm done. Now my suit just looks plasticky, but it's much more comfortable. You live and you learn. But it was awesome. It was fun. And people that you can tell are awkward, even like the younger kids. I had this girl come up to me at the small con that I went to this year, and when she walked away, I asked my husband, I was like, how old do you think that girl was? She was probably like 13, but she came up to me and wanted a photo, and it was really sweet. And you could tell normally in any other situation she would be really awkward, but because she was in this environment, she felt more comfortable. And I just wish we could get more back to that and not just focus on all this other bullshit. Because I think that's what they're really great for. And that's, if you're not going to go for the fandom, if you want to go just because you're just kind of awkward and you just want to be around people that are just like you and learn how to interact with people and things like that, that's awesome too. But unfortunately, that's not really what it is anymore either. Which is really unfortunate because it's something really awesome to see. Like when I see someone that I can tell they're just a socially awkward person, but they liked my costume enough, they're coming up to me to either just tell me they liked it because they're too scared for a photo, or they just kind of awkwardly stand a foot away from me for the photo because like they're too scared to touch me or just aren't comfortable with that. That's cool. Like, I don't make fun of them. Like, oh, did you see how much they like my cosplay? That's cool that they like saw that and were excited enough and brave enough to do that. But you just really don't you don't see, at least I haven't seen a lot of that anymore. And now they're making it impossible with all these restrictions on people, and don't be too close to people and don't touch them and wear this thing over your face so you don't look like a human to people anymore. And it's even more scary, I'm sure, if you're somebody who has social anxiety, to look at all these essentially faceless people even though they're in costumes.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
Well, we've just had 2 years where we've actively basically performed the 1960s Reese's Monkeys experiments
Yep.
on kids for the last 2 years. I mean, what you were
Yeah.
talking about, James,
The hard
there were
monkey.
experiments done with Reese's Monkeys where, you know, they took the baby away from its mother and they gave it a chicken wire mother wrapped in monkey fur that, you know, they could get milk from and stuff, and they got absolutely no socialization skills whatsoever. No love, no affection, no touch. And then magically, when these monkeys matured and produced offsprings of their own, they had none of the skills. And science was amazed.
Yeah, and now we're doing this to people at conventions too, with all these stupid restrictions. It's like
Mhm.
all these people that normally would have been perfectly comfortable showing their face in a crazy cosplay. I do wonder if some of the younger people coming up in costuming are not going to be okay or feel comfortable in the future actually just showing their face in a costume, because no one's ever seen their full face in a costume. And
There's
that's
that too, yeah.
weird to think about, like that
Mac?
maybe
Not-
cons are just
I
going to
can
have
answer
masks.
this. Not any more than their innate social anxiety that was sort of already there.
True, yeah. I guess it's just reinforcing what's
which-
already there.
Which reinforced, yeah, definitely the lockdowns did reinforce. But for a lot of kids, it's just like, oh, this is just. I talk to a lot of Zoomers. I keep up with I've just now turned 25, so now I'm not allowed to talk to kids.
Oh, you're a quarter of a
But
century,
when
you
I
old
was
bastard.
exactly, what my end of life crisis? When I was, it was just like, yeah, this is just a stupid thing that we have to abide by, and it's annoying. And I go home and I take it off, and I don't care.
That's good. There's quite a few base Zoomers that I've interacted with online, publicly online. I'm not allowed to talk to them in group chats
Exactly,
because that's weird.
because now you're the groomer.
Yeah, well, I'm 28, so that's very.
What are
groomer
you, a school
territory.
teacher?
Yeah,
All right.
basically.
You're the
well, I'm a
you're
woman,
the
so it's
danger
more
at these
accurate.
cons.
I need to shave
Right.
my head, then it'll be accurate.
Or shave half of
yeah,
your
you got to
head.
shave at least
Yeah,
half, of
your
it.
head. Get
And
the
dye the
Skrillex-
rest
dye the
blue
rest
or
purple.
something.
get the
Yeah.
get the Skrillex cut. You got to
The
go.
sky, yeah, I was just about to say the cyberpunk
Skrillex.
haircut.
Yep. Jesus. All right, we're coming up on almost 2 hours. One more minute.
Wow. I didn't
Yeah,
realize
well,
what
that
time it
flew
was.
by. That flew by pretty quick. It's almost 11 here at the Eastern Seaboard.
Mhm.
So we're
My part of
going
the
to
Midwest as well.
Yeah, exactly right. And we're old. We need our sleep. We need our
Yeah.
beauty rest.
Those of us who are over the half century mark
Well, everybody now.
and can still wear plate armor, I might add.
There you go.
So
All right. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. It's been a while.
yeah,
It's
very
been
much,
too
Mac.
long.
Thank you for
Yeah,
doing
of
this.
course. It was
And Robert,
great to
thanks
talk about
for the inspiration for this too.
No, not a problem.
Appreciate it. Any more questions in the chat before we go? We'll take one or two more. Any
And
non
no, Mac's not giving you any pictures.
no spurred
No.
questions.
Yeah.
James will give you pictures though.
Yeah.
He'll send them to you, and you whether you like it or not, he'll send them to you. So don't give
Yeah,
them.
actually, I've
Don't even
already-
Don't even
Sorry,
ask.
I've
You're gonna
tracked
get some
down all of
shit.
your IP addresses already, and they'll be
Exactly. You're gonna
airdropped.
Just fucking. I think that's it for the questions. So that's good. Where can everyone find you other than Twitter, or is that it?
I actually have a website now.
Oh shit! Yeah.
So instead of Kenzie Tough, it's Kenzie Puff with the letter P.
Oh, you're like your old Twitter handle.
Yep. So
Okay.
and that links all my social media and like my use everything you can find on there.
Okay.
So
So it's
So if
All
you want
my-
to watch her play games
is that
very
is
badly,
that it? Right? Is that a .com?
.com. Yep.
Okay. So
It's just KenziePuff.com. Yep.
.com.
And you can it's just
Okay.
it eventually just got easier to just actually just make a website and send people there instead of listing all the handles. So
Yeah.
because now
that's
all my
a lot
handles
easier.
are different because I've been kicked off of various things. Now I can just link them in one place and people don't have to go searching. So
Cool.
Vince
All
has
right.
some
Yeah.
experience of that.
Oh yeah, getting
Yeah,
kicked
don't
off.
don't.
Yep.
Well, the latest is my the Masculine Geek Instagram was banned for no reason.
Instagram.
It was just for no reason. I didn't post any tits. Well, I did, but there was
Weird.
no nipples. You can post tits with no nipples. I did do that, not my tits, but yeah,
Thankfully.
yeah, right. Yeah,
His
you
as
don't
well, but that wouldn't have gotten banned.
No.
That's right.
We're
That's
shy.
further down if you scroll down. So yeah, I get this. I go to log in and it's like, oh, sign in. I'm like, I sign in like, oh, you're something. Your account has been suspended. Like,
Wow,
well,
and you didn't even get a warning. They just straight
I
up
got no
suspended
warning. I
you.
just nothing. Just shut down. Just
Wow.
suspended. I'm like, what the fuck? So I have I have 2 other accounts that are just low level, but I still have them to reach out to people and say, hey, by the way,
That's good. Yeah. The
sign up on the email list or whatever to stay in touch or go to the
I also have
YouTube
an
and
email
subscribe.
list now. I feel like official now.
Oh, okay. So you got an email list, a website. You're on Twitch.
Yes, I'm on Twitch at Kenzie Puff as well. I believe that's linked on my website.
Okay, so all the links are at
Yep.
kenziepuff.com.
At my website, yes,
All
sir.
right, cool. Go check that out. There you go. Thank you, Bacon. Let's throw that up there. You were the anthem of the Masculine Geek Show. Bacon look that up. So awesome. All right, everyone. As always, it's been a pleasure having you in the chat. Everyone who's listening and watching later, thank you for joining us. Robert, where can everyone find you?
Robert Kuzland here on YouTube and on Twitter, and also on Instagram, and of course here with the Masculine Geeks. So
Excellent. James, last but not least.
You can find me at Asher Creativity on Twitter.
There you go. Cool. And tomorrow, as we've mentioned briefly about half an hour ago, we will be doing a live stream D&D mini painting and other D&D and sci-fi. Robert's got some sci-fi ships he's going to paint with Raul Tomasi. We're going to sit and have our cameras trained on our painting table, and we're going to talk some hobbies, some D&D, some nerd shit, and just painting. There you go. So we did one before. It seemed to be fairly popular, so we're going to do it again. It's good just to hang out and talk some shit and enjoy each other's company. So, all right, until tomorrow, everyone have a good night, and we'll catch you later. Keep that
Don't
wine
leave any
flowing.
wooden nickels at your local cons.
That's right, and keep that wine flowing.